Right everyone, welcome back to the Detail Formula. Today we are talking engine bays. You might have the tidiest looking car, the cleanest looking car on the outside and the interior, but if your engine bay is dirty, you got to know that deep inside, and you just know you're not going to be as happy as you would do if you had a dialed in engine bay. So today we're going to talk about the best ways for you to dial in your engine bay, making sure it's looking its best so that you know that you have a dialed in car. First up, similar to when we're washing the outside of our car, we want to do it in a cool environment. So whether it's inside or if it's in the morning or in the evening when the temperature's down low and you can be in the shade, that's going to be your best bet. If you've been driving around your car all day and the engine's warm, you want to give it a good couple of hours to cool down, just so that when we're spraying our cleaners inside the engine bay, they don't dry, causing water spots and marks throughout the engine bay. So key point number one, make sure the engine bay is nice and cool when you start. Okay, now first up we need to rinse down the entire engine bay. Now if your car is under 10 to 15 years old, you're going to have no issues using a pressure washer on your engine bay. Manufacturers now make sure their engine bays are totally watertight, and you can really do no damage by spraying a pressure washer into your engine bay. Now if your car is a little bit older, you still shouldn't have too many issues. Just take care not to spray on any sensitive areas such as any electric wiring, the alternator, air intake, and anywhere where it doesn't look like it should be getting too much water on it. As with any rinse, we want to start from the top and work our way down. So in this case, we're going to start with the hood and work our way down. So during the rinse, we're just trying to knock off any loose dirt or any other particles that we can make our job easier later on by just rinsing straight off. Once fully rinsed, we're ready for our next step. Right, now that we've rinsed down our entire engine bay, we've got rid of any of that dust and dirt that's hanging around, time to spray it down with our all-purpose cleaner. My go-to for all-purpose cleaners is Koch Chemie Green Star. This is a great all-purpose cleaner, very versatile. You can use it in many parts of detailing your car, but it does a great job of breaking down any grease and grime that's in the engine bay. Follow the directions on the bottle, but for this instance we want to dilute this 5 to 1, so 1 part Green Star and 5 parts water. So in my spray bottle here, I've got 1 part Green Star and 5 parts water. So we're going to go ahead now and spray down that engine bay. Okay, no secrets here. We just want to spray down the engine bay with a good layer of the Green Star, so don't be afraid to get everything a good soak. Another tip here, if you're going to wash your engine bay, good idea to do it before you're going to wash your car. As you can see here, you're most likely going to get a little bit of overspray when spraying the engine bay down. So if you are washing your car afterwards, you can be sure that you're going to rinse off all that overspray or anything that gets outside the engine bay. Okay, now we've sprayed down the car with the Green Star, it's time to get stuck in and agitate it. So for this, we're going to need brushes. 2 brushes I use the most are our bristle brush. This is good for getting into those areas down underneath, into hard to reach areas. But most of the time I'm going to use our large detail brush. Now this guy, the bristles are stiff enough so you can get into those hard to get areas, but they're also soft enough, so not going to do any damage to anything. So this guy is my go-to. You can get into all those little areas, and it's a great brush to go with. Again, pretty simple here. We're going to start from the top and work our way down. This is the time where you can take your time. Any extra time you spend here is going to mean you're going to get all those little areas where that dust is hard to get to. So taking your time and going through all those little spots is going to be of great benefit. If you're finding that you haven't sprayed enough Green Star down onto the car, there's nothing wrong with spraying a little bit extra into the brush itself, giving yourself a little bit more cleaning power and a little bit more lubrication. You can see this is where our large detail brush comes into its own. It does a great job of getting into all those nooks and crannies and getting out any of that grease and dirt that you haven't already attacked with the pressure washer. Now that you've got into all those little areas with your brush, time for us to rinse off all that Green Star and all that dirt that we've dislodged. Again, don't have to worry too much about spraying water on, just don't go too close. Staying a foot to a foot and a half back of the engine, just going to make sure you don't disrupt anything, and you can be sure that you're going to cause no damage. Okay, now the engine bay has been rinsed, it's been cleaned with our all-purpose cleaner, and then we've rinsed that all-purpose cleaner off again. It's time now to make it look good. Now for this, I use Carpro Pearl. Real simple. We're just going to spray down the entire engine bay with this and basically leave it to do its work. Now the pearl is diluted 1:1, so 1 part pearl, 1 part water. To make it nice and easy, it's the same as what I use for everywhere, so the same dilution I use for tyres, trims and everything else. When spraying down the engine bay with pearl, you can be nice and generous, hitting as many of the plastic areas as you can. Don't worry if you go a little bit heavier in some areas and a little bit lighter in others. Pearl does a great job of leaving a rich satin finish. The finish is going to be nice and consistent, not too glossy, and basically look like it came from factory. Now that the entire engine bay is all sprayed down with the pearl, we're going to leave it. So now's a great time to let it be, let it sit. We're going to wash down the rest of the outside of the car, and then come back in about an hour's time and level off any high or low spots, make it all look the same. Now the engine bay has been sitting closed for an hour or two, doesn't really matter too much. We're going to get in there, and there's just going to be a couple of high spots where all the pearl's kind of collected in certain areas. So great chance just to make your job a little bit easier. And our final step is grab an all-purpose towel, jump through, kind of soak up any of those high spots. So you can see, since we've waited an hour, all the pearl has basically leveled itself off, but there are a couple of high spots. So we're just going to go through the entire engine bay with our towel, soak up any of those high spots, and give everything a little wipe down. The goal isn't to dry it all off. You can leave it pretty wet. We're going to come back tomorrow after it's been left to all dry off to see the results. Welcome back. It's been a busy week this week, so it's actually been a couple of days since we watched the engine bay. But now time to have a look at it, see how it came up, and show you the results. Alright, so first impressions are pretty good. That little step of basically flattening off that pearl, any high spots, has done a good job. As I can see, there's no real high spots in there. Everything looks, all that plastic's looking great, and for how easy that process is, real happy with those results. So that's the process, and I'm sure you can use it to your benefit now. It certainly does the job.